I sat and waited. I knew her well. I should have after 14 years of marriage. Her need to control every situation drove her to rush home, to repair the consequences, overpowered everything else. I secretly wondered what she'd come up with. It was bound to throw her off balance if she got caught. She'd always been cunning, making plans, planning, working all the angles. I was straightforward. If I had something on my mind, it usually came out. For better or worse, I tended to go for the immediate solution. She hated it. It pissed her off when all her work and carefully thought-out plans went to waste. Don't get me wrong, I usually let her get what she wanted. Why? Because I'm a guy, and guys don't usually think about a lot of things. If she wanted it, and if it didn't ruin us financially or damage our relationship, she got it. It made her happy. And then she made me happy. And we were both happy. Happy, 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 happy. It didn't take her long to realize that there was a line in my head that said if you crossed it, things could get really bad. One day, when she didn't know I was around, I heard her describe it to a friend. I call it the magic moment, the point at which he becomes so angry that nothing matters. Not his friends, not his job, not me, nothing. When he reaches that point, the last thing he cares about is what people think or whose feelings are hurt. I'll give you an example. He worked at his old company for 10 years, got raises, good reviews, he was well-liked. Then the management changed. They brought in an expert. 2 weeks later, the expert gave a proposal which they accepted. Everyone's job was reorganized. Bob didn't care. He had worked there so long he knew just about everything. Then came the denouement. The examiner pointed out that the employees were being paid about 25% more than companies with corresponding positions in the area, so they were being cut to achieve parity. They told him his cut would be just under $5,000 a year. He laughed at them. "Let me get this straight," he said. "You want to cut all of our salaries because it will bring us down to the regional average, right? What kind of effort do you expect us to make after that? The same or 25% less? One of the reasons this company is successful is because it pays the best. You can't just come here, fill out an application, and start working. I had to go through 4 interviews, a physical and psychological testing before I was hired. You have a very strict attendance policy and strict safety rules. Why would anyone go through that to be hired when you pay no more than the establishment down the street where you don't have to work as hard and get paid the same? Eventually, you will have mediocrity rather than parity. Your older workers will quit in search of better jobs or easier working conditions. Production will suffer, accidents will happen, morale will be undermined." He paused to catch his breath. There were 4 people from the corporation and an efficiency expert at the meeting. All of them were bright red. "The decision stands," said one of the corporate goons. "It will take effect in 3 months." He smiled. "Good. That'll be more than enough time to find another job. Consider this my notice. The day before the cuts go into effect will be my last day." There was a general commotion. The plant manager assured the corporation that he wasn't going to quit but was just venting. Imagine their surprise when 3 months later he walked out the door. They tried to get him to come back, assuring him that they would inform all potential employers that he had quit and quit his job. "I already have a job," he replied. 9 months later, most of the old employees left, and many came to work at his new firm. They sent 2 corporate officers to persuade him to come back, offering him a nice raise. He laughed, wished them success, and left the restaurant. Once he makes his decision, no one in the world can change his mind. And while the decision may seem hasty at the time, he usually thinks long and hard about it. And he doesn't care at all about the financial cost, not to him. "I can get by without money, but not without self-respect." I've heard that a dozen times. I thought back over the years, trying to determine exactly when she had found it acceptable to have sex with another man. She'd tried a lot of things over the years to get me to accept. She went to Cancun for 2 weeks with her friends, a couple of whom were borderline sluts and one of whom was married. She had put together a pretty good presentation. It would be good to get a break from each other. It would make us stronger, blah, blah, blah. I told her the idea sucked, that the thought of being in a foreign country, on a beach with lots of alcohol in the company of a group of women I considered nothing more than adventure-seeking rockets, was not a good idea. But it's your life, so do whatever you feel like doing. Just don't forget the price. Over the years, she realized that was one of my key phrases. It meant that I knew she was wrong or it was a really bad idea, but I was tired of discussing it, and if she went ahead, she'd have to deal with the consequences. One more thing, I want my rings. If you're going to spread around strangers, you're going to do it without them. She exploded and started arguing. I just sat there until she lost her temper. Nah. While you were talking, I thought of a few more things. You won't have time to rent an apartment while you're on vacation, so do you want me to put your stuff in storage or take it to your mother's? She sulked, yelled, refused to cancel her plans. 3 days before she was supposed to board the plane, she came home with an empty house and a note. Thought it over, decided I don't want to live here. Now you can leave with a clear conscience without worrying about betraying anyone. Have a safe trip. Keep the rings. They are no longer of any value to me. Her slutty friends talked her into forgetting me and leaving, but she spent 2 days trying to find me. I took some vacation time and went camping. I was pondering if she had time to catch a plane while I was making another cast, intending to catch the big bass I had missed last summer, when suddenly I heard a sound. I figured you'd be here. Thanks for ruining a great vacation for me. As you can see, I didn't go. Happy now? I felt the rod twitch. Maybe Mr. Big had decided to play a game? No, hell, I'm not happy. It's hard to know that if I were a little weaker, you'd have snuck away, spread your legs, and had a hell of a good time knowing you had me under your thumb. Why are you here? Trying to ruin my weekend? It's not going to work. You know why? Because you won't be here. Go home, go somewhere else, just get away from me. If you don't, I'll fire the PI, and instead of adultery, I'll charge you with irreconcilable differences. Hell, it's so easy these days, we can get it over with in 4 months. Mr. Big struck. My rod nearly doubled in size, and the drag screamed like a virgin during a threesome. He tore through the water, dancing across the water on his tail. It had 8 pounds, maybe 10. Damn. It was at this point that it decided to attack me, swearing like a sailor. I was plowed into the water, and Mr. Big flopped back a little, spit out the hook, and with a slap of his tail, went back into the depths. She screamed and laughed at the same time. The water was a little less than waist deep, but damn cold for early April. I slowly stepped out. Maybe you'll talk to me now. I don't want a divorce. You better lick. That was all she had time to say before I pushed her into the lake. She slipped a little in the mud, waving her arms around in an attempt to keep her balance. But then she lost her balance and fell backwards. I noted that she was very well dressed and that she wasn't wearing anything under her short skirt as she went underwater. Apparently, she had decided to act on the screw him like a fool and make him forget principle. She didn't look very sexy now, covered in mud and grass. I saw that she was completely without underwear. She started to pull out, taking a breath to scream, but I pushed her back in. When she got to her feet again, I held up my hand. Listen. Don't speak. If you open your mouth before I'm done, I swear I'll jump up and hold you underwater until you stop blowing bubbles. Nod your head if you understand. She must have believed me because she slowly nodded her head. So, what are we supposed to talk about? We both know that if I had given in, you'd be sleeping with someone else right now. Deny it all you want. We both know it's true. I hope your slutty girlfriends are supportive. You're going to need friends. Maybe you can spend your time trying to steal men from each other. God knows they all hit on me, even the married one. I'm out of here. Don't follow me, don't call me, don't resist me when the papers are served. I heard her crying and calling my name as I left. It was no surprise that she was fighting the divorce, but I wondered why. She had a very good lawyer who got her into an appointment with one Edith Vine, a Judge Judy wannabe who was known for trying to keep people together, and we had to go to counseling. I almost got a contempt order for what I said. That's just nonsense, Your Honor. I don't want to work on this. I don't want to save the marriage. I just want to leave. She became very icy with me. Mr. James, you don't have to like it, but you have to leave, and I'd rather hear you participate. Do you understand? I was pissed, so I really pushed her. The bitch was so full of shit that her eyeballs turned brown. I understand, Your Honor. But tell me, didn't you go to counseling with your recently departed husband? Did that help? I seem to recall that the divorce went through anyway. Let me ask you a hypothetical question, ma'am. If I told you that you were a terrible judge with absolutely no understanding of human nature, and it would be a great disservice to the people of this district if you lost your re-election, would you be more angry because I dared to say that or because I turned out to be right? I'd never seen someone go from pale to red and back again so quickly. She banged her gavel angrily. "Bailiff! Take this man and send him to court for contempt of court!" My lawyer and close friend instantly stood up. "Hold on a second, Your Honor. You're going to put a man in jail for asking a hypothetical question? Your opponent in the race would eat that up. Please, he didn't mean anything by it." "He's right, Your Honor. It was just a question. I take it back." I just couldn't help myself. "However, when you lose in November and become a regular citizen like the rest of us, I will be sure to make inquiries about you and give a detailed opinion of your abilities." Okay, I dodged the bullet of disrespect, but she got back at me by increasing the number of mandatory sessions from 6 to 12. The first 3 sessions were very frustrating for both her and the therapist. I loved to read, and instead of responding with actual words, I used quotes from books and poems. Shakespeare was a gold mine, and his works were full of cheating whores. They broke through my defenses on the 4th session. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I wasn't as focused as I should have been. When she cried this time, I realized she really meant it. In past times, she had turned it on and off too easily, and this time she couldn't stop. The therapist asked why I married her. I wondered. Because I loved her. I knew what she was like. I watched her all through high school and almost all through college, manipulating everyone around her to get what she wanted. That's why I never tried to date her. Eventually, she had to ask me out. I went because I was curious. What could she possibly want with me? I wasn't rich, I don't think I was that good-looking, and I wasn't into gambling. We went to a party thrown by one of her friends. Her boyfriend, who she told me she broke up with, was there. She was trying to use me to prove that she could get anyone she wanted, so he'd better submit. It took me about 3 minutes to realize this. After that, I decided to have a little fun. I pretty much ignored her for the rest of the evening, dancing with her friends, flirting, a little groping, all where she could see me. She was furious. Eventually, she took me outside and started hitting on me. "What the hell are you doing? You were supposed to be with me, with the one you brought, remember? Behave!" She was shocked when I laughed. "What the hell do you think I'm doing? Apparently, I'm here being an asshole to placate your boyfriend, who you forgot to tell you're still in a relationship with. I figured since you lost, I'd troll you a little. You need to make new friends. Loyalty must be missing from their vocabulary. I already have 3 numbers, and Sue practically told me that after I take you home tonight, I should come back for a little after-party." Apparently, no one had ever spoken to her like that before. She started crying. Until recently, I could never resist a crying woman. I told her I agreed to the deal. She acted like she was actually my date tonight, and I would act like I was her date. We went back to the lounge, and she clung to my hand for the rest of the evening. We ignored everyone else, dancing only with each other. After a while, we really relaxed and had a good time. I think she was really surprised when I left her at the door with only a little kiss. I had no intention of seeing her again, but she took me as a challenge. Slowly, she worked her way into my heart. I told her early on that I didn't like her games. We broke up several times before she realized it. To end it all, we got married. I had gotten over the mumps as a child. It was possible that I could father a child, but not a sure thing. When we found out, I suggested that she end the marriage. She scolded me. I wanted to adopt the child, but she made one excuse after another until I realized it was too late. Now, in retrospect, that's a good thing. But, counselor, she gradually reverted to her old habits. The smugness, I suspect. They were little things, but as time went on, they became more and more. She didn't realize that I didn't care about what kind of car she wanted or the style of furniture in the house. Those things don't matter to me in the slightest. If it makes her happy, fine. But then she changed jobs, made new friends. She started wanting bachelorette parties. Again, I trusted her, so it didn't matter. She started coming home later and later, and one day she came home at 2 in the morning. Hair mussed, clothes wrinkled, lipstick smeared. That was the beginning of the end. She realized she messed up big time. She apologized, said she was drunk and it didn't go any further than kissing. I left her for 2 weeks. She begged, cried, swore she would go to counseling. I was weak. I still love the stupid bitch. I still can't tell you why. Things got better. She realized she had control issues and really worked on them. Changed jobs again to get away from the whores, as she said. I think she jumped from the frying pan into the fire. If the previous group were whores, this group are screaming whores. Slowly, slowly, she joined their ranks. The bachelorette parties started up again. And then the idea for Cancun came up. I checked out the resort. It was geared towards singles and people with alternative lifestyles. I had no doubt that if she went there, she'd come back a whore who'd broken her vows, and it would take her entire vacation, ruining all of our plans. I tried to talk to her, but she used platitudes and nonsense taken straight out of the scammer's handbook. I reached my breaking point and gave her an ultimatum. Stay with me and try to work on our marriage, leave and come back to the divorce dance. She refused to cancel, so I packed up and left before she did. She must have wised up because she never got on the plane. By then it was too late. I started the proceedings, and here we are. Yes, she's sorry. Yes, she'll go to counseling. But will it be enough? Will she learn anything? Will she be able to change? My question is, do I want to stay here long enough to see? Shatar. I eventually accepted her back, hoping for the best. Why? Because deep down, I really did love her, but I made her pay. I made her sign a lease and made her sign a receipt. Irreconcilable differences, and 50-50. Adultery, and the abuser walks away with the clothes on her back. It pained her to sign it. She loved the house and all her toys, but she knew it was her only chance. For a couple more years, we were fine. Then she started to change. I didn't notice it at first. It was little things. But as it happened, I picked up on it. I started to notice her superior smirk, especially if she thought I couldn't see it. I called the investigators. 2 weeks later, they informed me of their findings. Unfortunately, I wasn't surprised. Peter Cummings, the little weasel she'd been working with. According to the report, he was nothing more than a gigolo, looking for rich, older women to support his lifestyle. Handsome, I guess. But I didn't like his eyes. He took one look at her Mercedes convertible, the rings on her fingers, the perfect hair, and he smelled money. He flattered her. She gave him little gifts. He must be good in bed since they'd met so many times. I never once saw them together. I asked them to report to the lawyer I had chosen. I waited until I knew they were together and sent him a text. Urgent. Call me back. Call, don't text. And she called me back 3 minutes later, breathing heavily. What's the emergency? It's not really urgent, more of a courtesy call. I'm divorcing you. Have Peter drive to pick you up, you leave the car, and he'll help you pack your clothes. Leave your jewelry on the vanity, along with your house and car keys. There was dead silence for a few seconds until she came to her senses. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the post-nupta you signed, remember? The paper you signed to prove how unreasonable my distrust of you was? I'm talking about the fact that you slept with that creep for at least 3 months. I'm talking about you being in room 334 of the Four Seasons, naked except for a garter belt. What color is it, lavender or purple? The resolution on live TV can be a little murky sometimes. This is where I should call you a slut, but I can't because you pay for it with little gifts and credits. What's the female version of John, Jill? I could see her looking around wildly, trying to see the cameras. Stop looking, you'll never be able to find them. And tell Peter that the leather thong he's wearing looks completely ridiculous on a man of his age and build. There's a site on the internet called Fun Farm where they post stupid pictures. Tell him I posted it about 20 minutes ago. I just got famous. He doesn't need to thank me. I've got to go. The locksmith should be here any minute. Wait, I'll be right there. Please, I can explain everything. Curiosity took over. I grabbed a glass of my favorite wine and waited. I heard her drive up, her heels tapping quickly on the walkway as she rushed into the house. She looked around confusedly until she saw me in the living room. I had lit the fireplace. The fire was soothing. She slowly walked over to me. I stood up. Sit down, I commanded, pointing to the back of the chair I had placed across from the couch. She sighed to complain about my tone, but thought better of it and sat down. Wine? I asked, pouring myself another. She nodded, prudently remaining silent. I poured a glass, handed it to her, and sat back down. Give me a second to get comfortable. I love fairy tales, but they tend to put me to sleep, so if I doze off, forgive me. She flinched. A harsh rebuke flashed across her lips, but immediately her mind turned on. Darling, you know I love you, don't you? She paused, waiting for my response. But when I said nothing, she continued. I'm so sorry. Peter was a mistake, but it's over between us. That's what I told him when I left. I'm sorry. Maybe you'll do better with the next one, she flared up. Really, Shane? You're no help here? I laughed. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was supposed to help. Help you with what? Find another lover? There are a few guys in the office who might be interested, but most of them have pretty high standards. Maybe we could get some nude pictures of you from Peter and I could show them the goods. I could write a review. You're pretty good when you want to be. Do you think that would work? She went pale, wondering how much I actually knew. In my opinion, it was pretty stupid to let my lover take glamorous nude pictures of me. Please stop being rude to me. I'll tell you what. I'll stop if you just tell me why. Why, knowing what you could lose, are you being so stupid? I don't know why. Let me try to give you an example. You know, I have a pair of Nike sneakers that I've been wearing for years. They're out of fashion by now, practically worn out. But they fit my feet so well that I can't bear the thought of giving them up. That's how my love for you goes. Reliable, comfortable, I will never give you up. Then you see a pair of red shoes with 4-inch heels in the store window. You know they're impractical, that they'll probably hurt your feet if you wear them too long, but you know you'll look and feel sexy in them for a while. These shoes were fun for Peter, but I couldn't wear them every day. Do you understand, darling? It was just a fling to fumble around in heels for a while, knowing you could go home and wear something you felt good in. Do you understand? I stood up. I think I do. Thanks for explaining that to me. I walked over to the hall closet and grabbed my jacket. She followed me. You got it? You're not kicking me out today? No. My lawyer says I can't make you leave until the papers are served, and even then I have to give you a reasonable amount of time to move your stuff out. He suggested 2 weeks. So 2.5, maybe 3 weeks is probably enough for you, but you won't be able to sleep with me. I'll be a gentleman and move into the spare bedroom. I know how much you like the shower you had installed on my order. Her mouth was open. I continued. Tell you what, if you don't make a fuss, I'll help you find a nice apartment, put down a deposit, turn everything on, and pay the bills for 3 months. You make good money, but you've never had to pay your bills, so I'll help you budget. You probably won't have any money left over for spa visits, expensive lunches, or shopping. But if you work a couple days a week, you'll be able to afford an evening out every 2 weeks or so. I'll even find you a decent used car, but the insurance will be on you. Whether you take it or not is up to you. But either way, you're out of here. I reached into the hall closet and pulled out my favorite black fedora. It was vintage, straight out of the 60s. I had a wonderful uncle who never left the house without a fedora, and when he died, he left all of his hats, 31, in perfect condition and in their original box to me. They fit me perfectly. I bought them at a time when they were just coming into fashion. I thought I looked good in them. Many of the ladies in my office thought so too. My dear wife said I looked silly in them. I set the right angle and opened the door. She was still trying to comprehend what I had said. We should keep talking, try to work this out. It's 10 o'clock, where are you going? I took her hand off mine. To get some shoes. I think I'll look for something youthful and sporty, or maybe I'll opt for the Italian leather class. If I can afford it, maybe I'll buy both. Don't wait up. I laughed, pulling away, knowing she'd hit the speed dial button. It would ring and she would have to hear it while lying on the kitchen table. Mall. I ended up getting both in one package. She would leave me in the dust as we ran 5K and danced, turning me into a quivering mass in her 6-inch heels. 2 years older but looking 10 years younger, she was a smart, sexy, simple-minded, no-game-playing goddess. I worshipped the ground she walked on. She bought me hats for birthdays and anniversaries. I now have over 50 of them. Gwen tried to resist, but when her lawyer looked at the preface, he strongly advised her to accept my offer. I didn't need her Mercedes, so I sold it, took half the money, and bought her a 4-year-old little Chevy. She even thanked me. She got married a couple years later, and as far as I know, we no longer revolve in the same social circles. They seem happy. I know she was in treatment for quite a while. Funny story. I actually went to court when my divorce was finalized, even though my attorney said it wasn't necessary. I confronted the judge who was reviewing my first attempt and ordered us to go to counseling. She was now a regular citizen who lost by a wide margin. She attended her second divorce. I was almost held in contempt of court because I couldn't stop laughing.